What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Summer Slay episode 9. I am back, guys, back in front of the camera, ready to chat with you. As you guys know, I did take last week off posting on YouTube. I was having a rough mental health week and you guys were super understanding and I really appreciate that. With that said, and on that topic, this video is going to be all about mental health. You guys have been requesting this video for probably 2 years now. I have briefly touched on my mental health journey before in my transformation video, but I've really never just focused on the mental health aspect. There's a lot of parts that I left out. And I personally think that fitness and mental health are so connected. They are so hand in hand. For me, my fitness journey was very much also a mental health journey. I'm a completely different person now than I was when I first started. So my goal with this video is to tell you guys a little bit more of an in-depth mental health focused story about my journey with mental health and to give you guys some tips because I've been struggling with mental health for years now and it's taken me a lot of hard work to get to where I am and to be as strong as I am now, and I have a lot of tips, so I really want to share that with you guys. So I really hope you enjoy the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you do and don't forget to subscribe. Let's hop right into it. So it's actually so funny that we're filming this right now because it's Mental Health Month, Mental Health Week, Borderline Personality Awareness Month. I just figured it was a perfect time and I think it's so important to talk about this on a fitness channel and we can learn so much about both through both, if that makes sense. It's actually really funny that I'm filming this today because I'm actually having an amazing mental health day. All of last week I felt awful and I really wanted to pick up the camera and talk, but I just couldn't. I just needed time for myself, and it's almost like now that I feel more stable and happy and grounded, I'm able to kind of express myself better. So I'm actually really glad I'm doing it today. I'm a little bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie. Mental health is very personal for me, but it's also a huge part of my life and my past, and there's some things that I am not 100% okay with saying to the public. My family watches these videos sometimes and there's just things that I am not fully comfortable sharing yet, but I'm gonna share as much as I can, and I'm also gonna leave names out just for privacy reasons. Let's get started with my mental health story. So I first ended up in my therapist's office when I was 14. For the sake of this video, I'm gonna call her Dr. D. So yeah, I ended up in Dr. D's office when I was 14. The initial reason for me being there was because I was struggling in school. I was a quiet, shy girl from England, pretty new in America. Everyone thought that I was fine. I seemed to be paying attention. I was very polite. I behaved myself, but in reality, I was zoning out in class. I didn't really know what was going on. My grades were not great and I really had a hard time studying. Initially, I went to Dr. D because I was getting diagnosed with ADD. I was in there for 5 hours, I believe, on a Saturday and Sunday, or maybe I forget, but it was 2 days consecutively getting tested. It came back that I did have ADD and yeah, that was that. I got help with my ADD, but from then on, I ended up just kind of seeing Dr. D every week. I would talk to her about, you know, things that were going on at home or things I was struggling with. And a lot of it was like, you know, kind of teenage issues up until my parents separated. As you can imagine, I moved to the US with my family when I was 10. My mum, my dad, and my sister were like my unit. We didn't have any extended family in the States. They were like my everything. Not that we had, you know, like a perfect family. There was a few issues and things like that. But when they separated, I was very shocked and I would say I handled it not well. So Dr. D really helped me through that time. But it was around then that I would say things started getting a little bit questionable. My behavior was very spontaneous. I was very emotional all the time. I felt angry, and I would act on my emotions in pretty unhealthy ways. So this was around my senior year of high school. Then I started college. College is really where everything just got pretty crazy. It's weird because when I think of college, I had the time of my life, but it was also probably the worst my mental health has ever been. I got there and it was my first time being away from home. I was exposed to socializing, alcohol, partying, having to make my own priorities. No one was telling me to do my homework. No one was telling me to go to class. I had my own schedule. So at college, obviously you're surrounded by people your age. I was making a lot of friends. I had a lot of close relationships, and I was really in charge of my own time and in charge of dealing with, you know, stress and emotions on my own. And that's when kind of strange behavior started to pop up. One thing I remember really standing out was struggling with being alone. Whenever I was alone, I felt frantic. I would start to panic. I felt depressed. I felt like I was no one. And it became my main focus to be at every party, friends with everyone, always with someone, whether that was in class or not. So I was skipping class a lot. I was going out all the time. And this is weird for me to talk about, guys, because I don't feel connected to that person anymore, and I don't feel like I am that person anymore. Telling you guys about it makes me feel a little bit ashamed, so just bear with me. So this was freshman year, and I was really just kind of like figuring out college and just having the time of my life, but my priorities were not straight. Pretty soon I was on academic probation and social probation, so I was at risk of getting kicked out of the school within the first year of being there. This was because of behavior when I was going out, coming back to the dorms, skipping class, failing classes, all because I was dealing with my pain in a very unhealthy way. And even though it wasn't bringing me any happiness and it wasn't improving my life, I kept doing it because I didn't know how else to deal with my pain. So from there, I think that was a little bit of a reality check. I got back, you know, in my class, ended up getting pretty good grades, still going out, but not as crazy, whatever. Freshman year ended. So sophomore year comes and I join a sorority, Phi Sigma Sigma, which was a great decision. All my best friends were in Phi Sig. I had some great experiences. I'm so glad I did it. With that said, I never took the time before doing that to really fix what was going on with me and never really figure out, you know, what the problem was. I was still having a lot of really crazy roller coaster relationships. I was really unstable, dealing with things by drinking and doing crazy stuff. My behavior was not good, and it was causing me issues. Like, I didn't feel good on a day-to-day basis. I felt sick, hungover, ashamed, embarrassed. This feeling of painful emptiness sat with me for a couple more years. I dealt with it in very unhealthy ways, drinking, crazy behavior, things that made me feel awful about myself over and over and over. And it was just getting to be exhausting. Around my junior year, things got pretty serious. So I have memories, and again, this is very weird for me because I don't even really associate myself with this person anymore, but there would be situations where I felt so hurt on the inside that I would hurt myself. I remember smashing a window with my bare hand. I had so much pain. I felt so lonely, even though I was surrounded by people and I was always at parties. Nothing was curing this emptiness I had. Once it got to this point, I went home to New York and sat down with my therapist, Dr. D, who I've been seeing since I was 14. I've been telling her about all these things over the past few years. My life was so up and down, so all my relationships were so tumultuous, all my behavior was so confusing. She had been slowly piecing together what was going on. So I sat down with her in New York and she said, "Mari, I think you have borderline personality disorder, also known as BPD." So she pulled out a book for me and read me the symptoms and, you know, examples of situations with people that have BPD and how they deal with them. And we both immediately knew that that was me. I remember leaving Dr. D's and I felt a huge wave of relief, because I was like, okay, maybe I'm not a bad person. Maybe I'm not just, you know, crazy. There's something real going on here, and now I know what it is, so now I can fix it. But at the same time, it also opened this huge chapter for me. Like, from that point on, I now knew that I had a pretty serious emotional disorder and that I was going to have to do something about it. So I do just want to read you guys the definition of BPD, because I think the name is very misleading and a lot of people assume that it's multiple personality disorder or similar to bipolar. It's neither of those. So I'm going to tell you guys the textbook definition of BPD, and then I'm going to tell you guys kind of how I like to explain it, because, you know, everyone has their own version of things and I want to explain that to you as well. So if you Google borderline personality disorder, the definition is a personality disorder characterized by severe mood swings, impulsive behavior, and difficulty forming stable personal relationships, which is definitely the case, but it doesn't really go in depth enough, I don't think. Okay, I just found a little bit of a better description. If you have borderline personality disorder, you probably feel like you're on a roller coaster. Not just because of your unstable emotions or relationships, but also because of the wavering sense of who you are. Your self-image, goals, and even your likes and dislikes may frequently change in ways that are confusing and unclear. People with BPD tend to be extremely sensitive. Some describe it like having exposed nerve endings. Small things can trigger intense reactions, and once upset, you have difficulty calming down. It's easy to understand how this emotional volatility and inability to self-soothe leads to relationship turmoil and impulsive, even reckless behavior. When you're in the throes of overwhelming emotions, you're unable to think straight or stay grounded. You may say hurtful things or act out in dangerous and inappropriate ways that make you feel guilty or ashamed afterwards. It's a painful cycle that can feel impossible to escape, but it's not. So I like that description. I think that kind of helps other people understand what's going on a little bit better. So yeah, that is BPD in a nutshell. It is very painful and very difficult to deal with. It's difficult to have a normal day-to-day life with BPD, and it's difficult to teach yourself out of BPD, but it's possible. I think I'm living proof of that, and many successful men and women are also proof of that, but it does take hard work. In case anyone's wondering, they say that BPD develops during childhood. It can be hereditary, but it can also be reinforced by things that happen during childhood. It's not 100% clear yet, but that's what they are currently saying. Back to the story, I was diagnosed with BPD, felt relieved, but also felt like I just opened a huge can of worms. From there, I went back to school, back to Philadelphia, and I started seeing a psychiatrist. Looking back on it, part of me wishes that I never had, but part of me thinks that maybe it had to happen in order for me to get here. But in any case, I went to see a psychiatrist, and I was immediately put on like 3 different medications, I think. An anti-anxiety, a mood stabilizer, and an antidepressant. So I was on some heavy medication. I will say in the next few weeks, I felt a little bit more like down a notch. I still felt things and I was still triggered by things, but my reactions weren't so intense. Started on the medication, and then I also joined a DBT group, which stands for Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, and that was group therapy in Philadelphia, and that's where I learned about emotional regulation. DBT isn't just for BPD, it's for anyone that struggles with any kind of emotional disorder, even eating disorders, people that just have issues regulating their emotions and their responses. And honestly, I would say that was really helpful. We had a textbook, we had homework. Every week we'd share wins, failures. I shared some of my most embarrassing, shameful experiences in that group, and I never felt embarrassed. We were all kind of united under this feeling that we were all working to be better. It was a great place, honestly, and I learned a lot. So I completed 1 round of that course. Many people do multiple rounds. And then I just stopped going. And I think it was because I was having a hard time emotionally again. I was experiencing issues with self-harm again, and I just didn't want to go back. I was also really struggling with the medication I was on, I believe. It was not making me feel good, so I was switching things up a lot, trying different doses. I just kind of felt lost, and the medication made me feel numb. It made me feel lazy, lethargic, hungry. I just didn't know who I was anymore. Like I kind of felt like I lost myself, and that's when things really went downhill. The self-harm behavior continued, but I was just not going to class at all. This was my last semester of my senior year before I graduated, and I was failing every single class. I wasn't going because I was too depressed. I felt numb. I didn't know what was going on. I lost my grip on reality. Pretty soon I realized that I wasn't going to graduate. So I went to my advisor's office and I said, I know this is crazy. I'm in my last semester, but I can't do it. She was really sweet about it, and I left school. By the way, guys, I'm leaving out a lot of things because there's just some parts that I can't really share, and to do with other people and things like that. I'm just kind of giving you guys the summary. I had been through a lot by this point. I was exhausted. I couldn't believe what I'd done with myself. At this point, I was almost 250 pounds, and my dad had to come get me. He had to clean up my apartment with me, which was like awful. I remember it was just like a depressing mess, a representation of my life at the time. He picked me up. I was so ashamed that I didn't graduate. He had paid for my college career, and here I was leaving. Everyone else was getting ready to graduate and I was going home. I was so unhealthy. I remember I would sleep all day. I was just like not okay. Before I tell you guys about this part, I just want to say I'm not a doctor. I'm not recommending that you do this. I'm just telling you about my journey, and if I could go back, I probably would do it differently, but I was not in a good headspace. So I went back home to New York and I decided I wanted to come off my medication. While it was recommended to me to slowly wean myself off because your body becomes very reliant on heavy medication like that, I just cold turkey cut it out, and it was really hard. My mood was like crashed. I had no ounce of happiness. My body wasn't creating the chemicals I needed to feel happy, and it was probably the worst I've ever felt. I could barely move. I could barely get out of bed. It was awful, but it was my own choice, and nothing was going to make me get back on them by any means. My dad and his girlfriend were helping me so much. I remember they were buying books about nutrition and health and how it could help mood so much, and I remember ignoring them and being angry that they suggested that food could help this horrible thing I was going through. Jump to now, I'm like obsessed with food as medicine, but anyway, they really like helped pick me back up, but also I picked myself back up. It was the first time I was forced to be alone with my thoughts, and as the medication started to leave my body, which took months by the way, I started to kind of realize what the hell I'd done with my life. I hadn't graduated. I was 250 pounds. I was depressed. I felt awful. I had lost a lot of friends that I cut out of my life because I decided that they weren't good anymore and they didn't understand me. I had done a lot of hurtful things to myself as well, and I was just ashamed. This is where my journey began. This is where I feel like my life really started, which is corny to say, but it's true. I decided I wanted to change my life. I wanted to change my brain. I wanted to change how I react to things. I wanted to be the strongest version of myself I could possibly be inside and out. And that's where everything began. I changed my diet and my head felt better. I felt like I could process emotions better. That's not to say that the pain went away. I still had borderline, I still felt things, but I dealt with them differently. And I rewired my brain, I rewired my habits, I rewired my whole life. And it took practice and it was hard. Like, I don't want people watching this to think that I just decided, you know. This was a year of recovery for me and a year of teaching myself how to process things in a healthy way and how to be the best version of myself I could be, and teaching myself how to not give up on myself. And that's how I ended up here, which is pretty insane, because now I am the person that helps women discover their strength, and I am the person that motivates women to live life to their full potential. And that's so insane to me, and it really means so much to me. I don't think anyone will ever know how much it means to me. This is my passion, and I can't believe that I ended up being lucky enough to do this. And it just means so much to me to see you guys just like blossom and become these awesome people. So anyway, that is my story. I know I left some things out, but I think you guys got the message, and I think you understand kind of how mental health has really shaped who I am, and it's shaped this journey for me. I feel so blessed to be able to help other people deal with their demons in a healthy way. With that said, let's talk about some mental health tips I have for you, and I'm going to try and keep them as real and practical as possible, because I know some of them can be kind of like fluffy and like, am I really going to meditate for 5 hours a day? Like, I'm going to give you some real tips that I did. I actually haven't written any of this down because I wanted it to come from like within, not to sound cheesy, but I haven't written any of this down. The first thing, healthy fats. Healthy fats are huge if you struggle with depression, anxiety, mental health, anything. They're really good for our brain. So like olive oil, avocado, nuts, ghee, butter, any of those. Really start upping your healthy fat percentage. Also, please start taking fish oil pills. They changed my whole life. Not just one a day, take 6. If you have depression, you should be taking 6 fish oil pills a day. I take 2 morning, 2 afternoon, 2 evening, and I never ever skip them. Even if I go away, it is so important to me. Along with that, please do some research about food and mood. Your gut and what you consume is very much connected to how you feel, and it took me a while to realize that, Dad, but it is the truth. And now I'm obsessed with using food as medicine. My diet pretty much revolves around a bodybuilding diet, but also very much a mental health diet. I eat a lot of great healthy fats and things that make me feel good from the inside. My next tip is to monitor your social media time. And this is funny because my job is literally social media. As you can imagine, after what I just told you about BPD, social media is a very challenging place for me sometimes. I've gotten to the point where I have a lot thicker skin, and people interacting with me rudely or whatever it may be doesn't affect me as much as it used to. But if I'm having a rough mental health day and I see a mean message, a mean comment coming at me, my appearance, my personality, it hurts. Like, it really hurts. And I've gotten a lot better at just not reading them and blocking the person immediately. If you're having a rough mental health day, it's okay to take some time off social media. I know you guys understand when I need to, and I understand if you need to. Like, take that time for yourself. It's difficult to not compare yourself to other people when you don't feel your best. If you're feeling down and your self-esteem is low and you're struggling with anxiety, take some time off social media. It's not a good place to be. My next tip is going to be self-care. So as you guys just heard from my story, I used to deal with things in horrible ways, and now I think that I have a much better way at coping. Although borderline doesn't consume my life like it used to, and I don't struggle as much, I have days and moments where I'm in a lot of pain. the way that I deal with those is by self-care. So a couple of ways that I like to deal with things now is sweat it out, go to the gym, take a long shower or a long bath, get outside, look around, notice sounds and smells that are going on. It helps you get really present. Lulu is a huge one. You guys don't know this, but the reason I got Lulu is because I was struggling really bad with being alone, as you guys heard, and she was my little angel baby that saved me from being alone. Do something that takes kind of like effort, like painting your nails. You have to really pay attention. Do some art. That always helps me a ton. Do something that's positive for yourself. Even cleaning, just something to take your mind off of whatever is upsetting you. And then my final tip would be just to look for some support. I remember feeling so scared of asking for help. I had Dr. D, but I never really told my friends what was going on with me, and I never really told them that I needed help. Thankfully, I have Greg now, who deals with all of this from me. He listens to me, you know, talk about all this stuff all the time. And he's really made it a huge priority in our lives to kind of take care of my mental health. And that's why you guys always see him cooking for me and seeing us outside all the time. A lot of those things are because we're taking care of my BPD, and I'm so grateful for him. He's just grown into this like awesome supportive person. I think everyone deserves a person like that, but if you don't, please know that I'm here and I love you and I support you, and you are your best support system. You can teach yourself how to support yourself, because for a long time I was alone and dealing with things alone, and I think it was that period of time that taught me how to be strong. So I know it hurts and I know it's difficult, but know that you're going through this for a reason, and the lesson is going to be so well worth it, and you'll come out stronger than you've ever been before. Okay guys, if you have any questions about borderline or mental health, or if you just want to share your own story, I would love that. Please comment below. I cannot wait to read them. I really hope that this was helpful for some of you. I hope you learned a bit more about me. I hope we can spread awareness and break the taboo of talking about mental health. It's okay. It's okay to not be okay. I love you guys. Happy Mental Health Month. Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video.